So far, it was just a theory. Now it's an official charge. The coronavirus came from a lab in Wuhan. The US government is now saying this on record. We've been covering this story from the word go, and I can tell you that this claim is as old as the pandemic. At the same time, there is no clinching proof as yet to substantiate it. Nonetheless, the United States sounds convinced. The top officials in the Trump administration are now saying it on record. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave an interview. He claimed that the Wuhan coronavirus originated in a lab and that it's man-made. He said it in so many words. In fact, Pompeo says there is quote-unquote enormous evidence that the coronavirus has ties to the Wuhan lab.
Remember, China has a history of infecting the world, and they have a history of running substandard laboratories. These are not the first times that we've had a world exposed to viruses as a result of failures in a Chinese lab. And so while the intelligence community continues to do its work, they should continue to do that and verify so that we are certain. I can tell you that there is a significant amount of evidence that this came from that laboratory in Wuhan. Look, the best experts so far seem to think it was man-made. I have no reason to disbelieve that at this point.
Last week, Donald Trump said the very same thing. He said that he'd seen proof. Now, Mike Pompeo claims there is enormous proof. None of them, by the way, has shared any of this evidence with the rest of the world.
We're looking at exactly where it came from, who it came from, how it happened, separately and also scientifically. So we're going to be able to find it.
And my question is, have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Yes, I have, he says. So 2 of the most powerful men in America say the virus comes from a lab. They've seen proof. But their own intelligence agencies do not say this. The US intelligence community has launched an investigation into the origins of the virus, and they say that their report is still work in progress. They've ruled out the bioweapon theory. What about the lab theory? Does it hold any water? Senior officials are speaking to the American press in private. Reports say the evidence so far is circumstantial. It is based on public material. Meanwhile, Mike Pompeo's statement is interesting given the US government's own links with this very Wuhan lab. Pompeo says China has a history of infecting the world and of running substandard labs, his words. The fact is, America is funding this very same substandard lab. This too is a matter of record. Last month we had reported that the US National Institute of Health, the NIH, has given $3.7 million to this Wuhan lab. The NIH is an agency of the US Department of Health. After this report, the Trump administration blocked the funding, but it does raise questions on why Washington was supporting what it now calls substandard labs in a country that Pompeo says has a history of infecting the world. Meanwhile, the country in question, that is China, has launched an all-out attack. Beijing has unleashed its entire state media machinery to discredit the Trump administration. From news reports to animated Lego characters, Beijing is not holding back its punches. Last month, the state media put out this cartoon. It shows Mike Pompeo making what they call the anti-China virus, with conspiracy, racism, and bias as ingredients. This is just another example of China's crude propaganda. China is backing up its cartoons with harsh and tough statements from the foreign ministry. With his statements now, the US Secretary of State has painted a target on his back. Broadcasts on the Chinese media are now devoting prime airtime to bash Mike Pompeo. TV screens on Beijing subways show photos of Mike Pompeo with liar, the word liar, stamped on his face in big red letters. The state media is publishing one editorial after another to blast the US Secretary of State. China has used terms like, listen to this, enemy of humankind, rumor monger, and super spreader of a political virus for Mike Pompeo. The shrill exchanges only show how bad things are between the US and China and how much is at stake.